Is Bumblebee the movie a prequel or a reboot? That's what we're talking about in today's video. This topic has rumbled on for so long now, and the movie is out and people are still asking the question. So we're going to cover this. I'm going to give you my views and opinions, and I want to get yours in the comments section below. But before we get into today's topic, make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell turned on so you stay up to date with all my Transformers content. So, prequel or reboot? That is the question. Well, my honest feelings towards this movie is I feel that it went through many changes in production, but I do believe that this film started out as nothing more than a prequel to the 2007 Transformers film. And the reason why I say this is because in teaser trailer 1 we had the famous quote from Bobby Bolivia.
Let me tell you something, son. A driver don't pick the car. The car pick the driver. It's a mystical bond between man and machine.
And I believe that was setting this movie up to just be a prequel to the 2007 Transformers film. And I think Paramount Pictures did this because it was coming off the back of the poor performance of Transformers The Last Knight. It was a risk. We've got a new director at the helm with Travis Knight, not Michael Bay. So this was a risky situation for Paramount to be in. This film might not deliver on any accounts. And with that being the case, it was much better to try and portray this as a prequel so they could say, well, it didn't do well, never mind, it's a one and done. Now that first trailer, I believe, did a lot more than Paramount expected, because many fans had felt hurt and burned from the Michael Bay franchise, but because this was a new director, they checked out the trailer and they began to realise there was a different tone here, a different type of Transformers film, and that built quite a bit of excitement, something fresh and something new, a more emotion and relationship driven Transformers film. Then we got trailer 2 and we saw the G1 aspects of Travis Knight's vision, and that got everybody excited. And at that point, I think that Paramount thought, well, maybe we've got something a little more on our hands than just a standalone movie. This has the potential to be more. So they started to drop away the reference of a prequel. We didn't get any more reference from Bobby Bolivia. We didn't hear when they were at Comic-Con that this was a prequel. Travis Knight was actually asked the question, is this a prequel or is it a reboot? And his reply was, you have to ask the studio, because I don't even think that him or the cast knew where this movie was going to go, because Paramount wanted to wait and see. They wanted to see if the reception stayed positive all the way up to the release, and then the reaction from the fans and the critics once the movie came out would determine where the future of the Transformers live action universe would be going. The fact that Sector 7 is featured in Bumblebee the movie is a massive nod to Bay's 2007 film. Sector 7 doesn't exist unless Bay came up with it. So that's a nod in itself. Now I'm going to talk about a few spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the film already, then I suggest you click away. But if you have, let's keep going, because there's a nod to Agent Simmons. That tells you that, again, a character that Bay created is featured in the 80s movie by Travis Knight. And of course, the biggest nod is the fact that B then scans a Camaro. And we know the iconicness of the Camaro and Michael Bay's Transformers live action universe. So all of this are prequel references. But in production, this movie had scenes added to it, and it also had scenes removed. And the reason for that is because Paramount were very indecisive about what they wanted. They could see the potential, so a reboot should have been on the table, which it did become, and a prequel was still there if they didn't want to take this any further. But even at this point, I believe they were unsure, so they had a certain amount of scenes which would reference and nod to the Bay universe, but they also added scenes which would then give an opportunity of a reboot. So it was still at the time very confusing, and if you see the film, you'll understand what I mean. Now I'm going to reference more spoilers, so please be prepared, but if you think about it, Travis Knight mentioned there was a scene that would feature Megatron on Cybertron, but it was removed for the continuity with Bay's universe. Very strange to have that removed if this was a reboot. Why not have it in? Because if you had that in, it would tell everybody, it's a reboot, we're taking things forward from here. But to take that out, because it needed to provide continuity to Bay's universe, giving the nod to the fact that Megatron had tried to travel to Earth years before and crash landed, that's what Bay mapped out. It kind of tells you that still the thought process was a prequel. However, there was a scene added to this movie which undermines all of those nods of a prequel. And it is a scene which could have easily been added once Paramount had seen the initial reception from the critics, because they could have shown this behind closed doors, got some feedback early, because we've seen how positive the feedback has been. A 90+ fresh on Rotten Tomato tells you the story. It's unheard of for a Transformers film, but they would have got this idea, they would have seen that, reaction was positive and that this did have an opportunity to go forward, and they added a scene which really changes the whole complexion of the live action universe, because for all of the references to Bay's franchise, they added a scene with Optimus Prime on Earth with Bumblebee, and they look up and we see other Autobots descending to take refuge on Earth. Now, Bay's 2007 film had the Autobots coming down with Prime in 2007, but Prime is already on Earth according to Travis Knight's 80s movie. So that is a course correction from Paramount Pictures to send this franchise in a new direction with a soft reboot. And I don't really like the terms soft and hard when talking about anything for a reboot, because it's just a very strange reference to have, but it does really sum up what Paramount did, because they'd always had their sights set on this initially to be a prequel, and they had kept it that way. They'd even kept it in as the movies released, but they added one scene which would change the direction of the franchise if this movie did well. And they did that. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is a scene on the cutting room floor of B as the Volkswagen Beetle pulling in to Bobby Bolivia's garage and it taking the form of a Camaro. I would not be surprised if that has been left on the cutting room floor, because many people thought that would be the perfect way to tie up a prequel movie to the 2007 Transformers film, set things up perfectly. But they never went there, and the reason why they never went there was because everything was positive and everything seemed to say that this was the Transformers film that the fans and that the critics wanted. And I do believe that they'd hoped it would perform better at the box office, but this is a tough time. I thought this was the perfect Christmas movie, but with Aquaman, Mary Poppins, quite a difficult time, and Christmas. Not everybody wants to go to the cinema bang on Christmas. So it's a tough time to sell this movie, but they went for it, and I really hope that it succeeds. And I believe now this movie is in reboot mode. It's time to take this franchise forward from Travis Knight's vision, because yes, we have plenty of nostalgia, plenty of references to Michael Bay's movies, but the fact that you put Agent Simmons in there doesn't mean that we have to now go down the route of Simmons playing a part how he did in the Michael Bay franchise. He may never be seen again, but he could be used, because we have plenty of years to get to 2007, and they don't even have to go there even if they reached it. You know, we could go down the route of an Optimus Prime spin-off. We spoke about that. I made a video on that the other day. If you want to check that out, you can. I will link it in the description box below, where Lorenzo de Bonaventura has said some outspoken words, maybe going cold on a Prime spin-off, but he's talking about a mainline Transformers film. Why he wants to go there so quick, I don't know. But, you know, this has opened the door to many opportunities for Transformers to go forward and not just go back to Bay. So I think Paramount, you know, played the cards very close to their chest, and they played them all the way up to the movie's release, and they even played it when they were waiting for the reception of the fans and the critics, because if this film had not done well, they could have just pulled the plug. Even with that Optimus Prime Bumblebee scene, they could have just said, you know what, no, one and done something else with it. But leaving that scene in, very smart, because if it is successful, and it definitely is successful from fans and critics alone, they can take this as a reboot. So, to finalise, this film started as a definite prequel. The film went into production. After feedback, they thought maybe it could be something more, but they never wanted to go too far with it. The film came out, they still wanted to keep a balance, keep it calm. It could be a prequel, it could be a reboot. Then the feedback came in and they pulled the trigger. It's a reboot. That's my view, that's my opinion, and now I want to get yours. So get involved in the comment section below. And for the people out there that sometimes go, oh, you overanalyze all of this, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what the channel is for, to talk about topics related to Transformers. So it's not overanalyzing, it's a discussion, a talking point for people to get involved in. And, you know, when you criticize that and you say that, you're adding to the discussion too. So you get what I'm doing, yet you then complain. No idea why. I want to have debates with the Transformers universe. I want to hear from you guys. I love your opinions and I want to hear what you think. Prequel or reboot? Get involved in the comment section below, and all that's left to be said is please rate, comment and subscribe. This is Delzinski signing out.